What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode here of the Met Central podcast. For now, I'll be going solo, but I will be joined by Matt shortly, and maybe Niko, maybe others. I don't know yet, though. But regardless, we're going to talk about the Mets, who have now picked up two series wins in a row. From the last time we talked, obviously things were looking very down and looking negative, and I for sure was not high on this team, and we were talking about blowing up the damn team, and now it's looking like things have settled down more. And, it's hard to evaluate this team until we know the results here by the end of April. But they went to Cincinnati, took two there, could have had three there. And then you look, even with the series in Atlanta, like they took two, could have had three there, and they just have looked a lot more competitive in these games. So, very good signs from the New York Mets thus far in terms of the way that they're turning things around. And well, listen, it's a very big deal in terms of the fact that they went to Atlanta and actually won that series, because how many times do they just get their ass kicked by this team? So huge deal there. We're going to talk about everything, though. Leave a like if you do enjoy. Subscribe if you guys are new, especially if you're Met fans, and turn on your notifications so you know when I upload or go live on the channel next. But last episode, I was talking about how if I genuinely thought they were going to win like one or two games during the stretch here of Cincinnati and Atlanta. Well, obviously one of the games got postponed in Atlanta because of the rain, the Wednesday game, which won't be played until September, which is just a whole different thing that's ridiculous. But now they end up playing three games, so they win the series there. And again, they were in grasp with two of these games. The two losses were very winnable, especially the one in Cincinnati. That's the one that really drives me up the wall more. But you look at that Friday game against Cincinnati, they end up winning 3-2 in that one. And yeah, like just a solid game there for the Mets. The only complaint that I had really is that more guys in the offense need to start stepping up. Brett Beatty was really the only one that contributed in terms of the way that the lineup played that day. And outside of that, it was pretty much just, McNeil and Bader got hits, but still 4 hits, and it just wasn't a sustainable way to win. You had Lindor get an RBI without getting a hit because of a walk there, but there obviously needs to be better play from the Mets. That's what my reaction, my takeaway was from that first game. Then the second game, it's kind of the opposite, where they hit and the pitching just ends up blowing the game because they burnt the bullpen so much between that first game against the Reds, and then they still had carrying over from that Detroit series. And then they had to use guys like Diekman and Johan Ramirez, and that second game was just beyond infuriating. And then you get to the last game where it felt like they were in control pretty much the whole way through. And, if anything was going to happen, it was going to be the bullpen to blow it up and ruin it. It didn't happen. I mean, the bullpen made things fairly easy. Like Raley had a little bit of a jam there in the inning he pitched, but outside of that, an easy win there. So the Mets did very good work in Cincinnati. It's just, again, that second game, it sucks that they blew it because Johan Ramirez was left in there to rot and let up 5 runs. But it saved the bullpen at least, I guess.
Yeah, it was a good series, that Cincinnati series. They played well. Obviously, not everybody was up to full, standards yet in terms of performances, but as we saw in the Atlanta series, a couple guys did start to, get into their prime form. But yeah, it was a good 2 out of 3 win, series win. And the biggest surprise definitely was the Atlanta series. I mean, I think the biggest issue we had with the first series against the Brewers and the Tigers was just how much lack of fight they showed. But I got to say, I'm not fully bought in yet on this team, but the fight that they showed in that Atlanta series in terms of, fighting back in game 1 and winning that game, fighting back in game 2, coming up short, and then just completely annihilating them in game 3, that really impressed me. And I'm starting to maybe turn a little bit and saying that, okay, maybe this team can fight for a playoff spot.
Yeah, and like that's the thing. Like, we'll get into the Royals series coming up. That's going to be a big statement series here for the Mets team. Like, that's a red hot Royals team that's been looking like they might be the team to beat, honestly, in that division at this rate with the way that they're playing. So that's going to be a tall order for them, but we'll talk about the Royals series later. But yeah, to wrap up the Red series, that first game, like I mentioned, a lot of things went the Mets' way. Like, you had a hit by pitch to help them out. They get a sacrifice fly there, fielder's choice, like poor defense from Ellie De La Cruz pretty much the entire series. McNeil, though, getting a home run was big in that game, and he's starting to become a little more clutch. Like, he still needs to hit the ball better, but he's starting to have more moments where it's the Jeff McNeil of old, where you're getting some clutch hits from him, and that's at least a step in the right direction. If he's not going to be hitting consistently, at least if he's going to do it in the clutch, that's a big deal right there. That's a big sign. And then with the last game of the series, even too, like, again, you look at the way that they got their runs. You had Alvarez, who's been on fire. Nimmo got hit by a pitch, and then Lindor, though, had a big game that game. That was Lindor's best game of the season. Obviously, things haven't looked great still outside of that game, but hopefully he gets the standing ovation tonight against Kansas City, and hopefully that will help turn things around for him. But outside of that, they need way more from him, but that was a very good game from him. Marte looking good. Tyrone Taylor looking good as well. But yeah, there's really not a lot to talk about with the Red Series too much, just because it's also a little more relevant now, where this Brave series is really a big deal for this team. And really, like, this is the type of series I needed to see to rope me back in at least a little bit with this team. And the fact that it was a 4-game set going in, we felt, all right, you at least got to split here if you want a chance of this season, being salvaged in any way. They go in there, one of them gets canceled, and they win 2 out of 3. First game looked like a wash entirely because Julio Teheran was on the mound. He stunk up the place, didn't even give you 3 innings, and it looked like that was just going to be a wash away game for a loss. But the team that we've been saying did not have a lot of fight, especially earlier in the season here, they showed some damn fight in that game. You had Marte, who got that RBI single to start things off for their scoring, and then Nimmo, he had a very big game that day, hitting 2 home runs. Even DJ Stewart, another guy where he's not doing it consistently with the bat, but when he does do it, it's in a clutch spot. Nice to see that. And obviously they had to make it close, even though they did have an 8-5 lead. Ended up being down to 8-7, but a lot more fight. And again, that's a game too where the bullpen, you didn't have a lot of options, and the bullpen fought through and gave you very good work, all things considered, even though Jorge Lopez, of course, almost left that home run. Tyrone Taylor makes the big catch at the wall. Drew Smith gets into a jam, but Reed Garrett really was the hero of that game, the unsung hero, giving 2 1/3 innings of work, 5 Ks on the day for him, only allowing a walk and a hit. But that was the game that, honestly, even though they smacked them in that last game, that was the type of game where it shows some damn heart. Like, that was a very important win.
Yeah, definitely. I think the big thing with that series just watching how Brandon Nimmo broke out. And I think the big thing when you notice with Nimmo, especially early on in the season, we weren't seeing those long dragged out at bats that he usually has. But we started seeing that in the Atlanta series. And I'm like, okay, this is the Nimmo of 2022. This is the guy that we want to see. And you could just see when he's fighting up there, he's constantly getting confidence. And then you saw it, got the 2 home runs in the first game of the series. He ripped an RBI triple last game. And even it's important because even, like, I've said this before, but like Buck mentioned back in 2022 that when Nimmo was having those long, drawn out at bats, especially to start a game, that flipped the momentum in the Mets' favor. So I would, now since he's getting on base more, I would like it if he could start stealing a couple more bags. But it's good that he's starting to break out with the bat. Now, if just other guys like Lindor, especially if he could find it, then I think, okay, the offense starting to get there now. Then hopefully, JD Martinez comes up at some point, and Beatty's playing well, Alvarez playing well. So hopefully, yeah, now it's just this team starts to roll on. It starts to get a groove now.
Yeah, which we'll talk more about JD as well. But yeah, like you mentioned, Nimmo, there's clearly been an adjustment. He's looking a lot better. And also, another underrated fact about this series is the fact that the Mets did such a good job with Ronald Acuna Jr. Like, he was pretty much a non-factor this entire series, which, sucks I took him first in fantasy this year, but I'm not going to complain if it results in the Mets having a better outcome. So I will take the sacrifice for sure in fantasy there. The second game, the Mets almost came back and won that game. Like not a good start at all from Adrian Hauser. There's really no way around it. But once again, you got to give credit to the bullpen. You got some solid work there from Nunez, got solid work again from Sulzer, who, I didn't like them giving 2 innings recently, but hey, it's been working out with him. And the Mets almost came back. Pete Alonso got that home run. Nice to see him swinging the bat well. Narvaez, his defense has been atrocious, but he's at least hitting the ball for now. But I don't anticipate that lasting, unfortunately. And then Marte had that ground out RBI there. And it looked like the Mets maybe in the 9th inning were going to rally and win. Unfortunately, they came up short, but I still wasn't mad about that game given the fact that they were in reach. And then the last game is really where we could talk all day about how they just annihilated the Braves, killed Luis Guillorme when he was on the bump. His first appearance of the Braves is on the mound, and Tyrone Taylor hit a grand slam, just timely hitting. That's something that has worried me with this team. They couldn't do it as much in that second game. They went 7 for 13 with runners in scoring position. Everybody got a hit that game, and it was just a very impressive performance. Nimmo looked good. Lindor obviously still have concerns. Beatty this entire series, between the defense and the way he's playing offensively, that's a whole different conversation we could rave about with Brett Beatty. Alvarez continuing to swing the bat well. McNeil had a good day at the plate, and even Harrison Bader picked up 2 hits. Like, they got contributions through the entire lineup. And I hate the excuse from Braves fans that, oh, well, we had a spot starter going in. Yeah, well, the Mets rotation is pretty much filled with spot starters. Like, Jose Quintana is not really, he's not an ace level pitcher, and he's thrown in the spot. He actually did a very solid job. I would say this is his best outing thus far of the season. Drew Smith still hasn't allowed an earned run, which is huge. And then Tyler J, cool story there. He comes in, gets a little beat up and makes it a little it got a little worrisome at one point because it was like 7-3, I think, and ended up cutting down there. And I was like, don't tell me they're going to have to use guys like Diaz, because Quintana got into a little bit of a rough stretch. Was it the 4th or the 5th inning?
It was the 4th inning.
4th inning, yeah. So yeah, he got into a little bit. No, it was the 5th inning. He got in a little trouble in the 5th inning, and he ended up working out of it. The Mets responded with some offense, which is what I love, because that's something that I've been wanting this team to do. Like, when you get punched, you got to be able to punch back harder than the other team. Pause. And they did that there.
The situational hitting was the biggest, I think, positive for me coming out of this series, because I think we were talking about it a lot, how during the first 5 games where they went 0-5, they didn't have that killer instinct. How many times did they get runners on first and second, nobody out, and they would panic up at the plate. They would swing first pitch, they would pop out and do all other bad things. But I think you saw in this series that whenever they did get guys on base, they didn't go up to the plate, erratic. They came up there confident. They were taking pitches, they were making the pitcher work, looking for their pitch, and then you saw, Nimmo, McNeil driving the ball into the gap, scoring multiple runs. That's what this offense has to do. That's what offenses like the Dodgers, the Braves do. You can't go up there just scared and not confident. You just gotta work the count and be confident. And that's what we saw.
Grind out
at bats.
Yeah, and it was kind of funny that it was like the opposite. Like, the Braves were the ones making the defensive mistakes. Like, you had Michael Harris in center field not being able to track a ball. You had some weird plays at third from Austin Riley. A lot of bad defense there. And the Braves were kind of doing what we were talking about with the Mets doing, where they were aggressive in their plate approach, and it was not working for them at all. They had pretty much no answer. And I know they scored 7 runs in the first game. They scored 6 in the second, but it didn't feel like their offense was as dynamic as it usually is. Like, usually you're seeing all of them just put one over the damn fence to the chop house. Olsen, they somehow avoided him just barely with that one pitch from Quintana where it ended up being a triple, but they avoided Olsen doing a lot of damage. They avoided even Austin Riley. Like, he had a couple big hits here and there, but they avoided, just from their entire lineup, like, they avoided a lot of damage that usually is done to them. Like the biggest threat to them this entire series was Orlando Arcia. And if that's your problem, you're doing something right. So yeah, the Mets offense did great. And then on top of that, the pitching did very good, especially considering they're trying to not tax the bullpen as much this year, which it's very evident there. They're getting very solid production from the bullpen. And I like Niko was talking about it in our group chat that it's just so nice to see them. Like when David Stearns doesn't like a pitcher or see something wrong, he's going to send the guy down. Like he's not going to waste time. He doesn't care who you are. If you're pitching bad, you're off the roster. And we saw it with Michael Tonkin, who not even within a week gets DFA'd, goes to the Twins. You saw it with Johan Ramirez too, who's now with the Orioles. So I like the aggressive roster moves as well amongst everything else that we're seeing with this team.
It's a big reason why I trust him, because even though at heart he is a Met fan, he's not afraid to make moves. If he sees somebody's not working out, well then guess what? You're gone. I'll get someone better. And that's the right attitude. You need a ruthless approach sometimes. But I think on the pitcher side, one guy that needs a big shout out, it's Reed Garrett, because he's pitched very well so far. I mean, he came in the second game of that doubleheader where the Mets were getting no hit. They needed a victory. He came in, he gave you a lot of relief innings, and then in that first game, like we talked about, how they didn't have their top bullpen options. You know, Ottavino wasn't available, Diaz wasn't available, Raley wasn't available. He came in after a bad outing from Julio Teheran, and he kept the game close until the offense was able to break out and tie the game at 4. So major credit to him.
Yeah, and there's a lot to love about just the way Reed Garrett has pitched. Like you look at the Savant numbers and he just looks like pretty much everything's in the red except for the fact that he's not getting a lot of ground balls and his walk rate's a little up, but that's all going to even out. Hopefully it doesn't return back to the mean fully in terms of Reed Garrett being what we saw last year. But right now, yeah, he's been giving very big innings for this team, eating innings for this team when they need it. And he looks like a dominant piece too in that bullpen. Like he doesn't look like just a guy back there. Like he looks like a legitimate threat back there in this bullpen. And if he keeps this up, he might even start to get a bigger role and bigger innings, especially because Ottavino, it feels like early on already, they don't really trust him that much. Lopez has been shaky back there at times. So I agree with you that I like what we're getting from Reed Garrett. He's been an unsung hero so far for this team. And they've had that with pretty much the entire bullpen. Like they obviously had a couple rough games here and there, but they've gotten a lot of good production from their bullpen. The biggest concern obviously still is with Francisco Lindor, which we will talk about that. And it's annoying because I hate to beat a dead horse here, but he's just simply not playing good baseball. Like there's no way around it. And this might honestly be the worst stretch of his entire career. Like I don't think that's hyperbole at this rate. And his lefty swing looks horrendous. Like he needs to stop hitting from the left side. There's no way around it.
Yeah, definitely. He is not. I think what is he? 3 for 34 to start the season? 3 for 36, something like that. It's bad, and a lot of it's from the left side. He just, for whatever reason, he cannot get that left hand swing going. I mean, it's weird because in the past couple seasons, in Cleveland and his first 3 years at the Mets, he wasn't terrible at the left side. I mean, he was always a better natural right-handed hitter, but he was never this bad from the left side. And I don't know, maybe eventually does he consider stop switch hitting and just mainly focus hitting off from the right side? I don't know, but if this does continue, how bad he is from the left side, then I don't know. Something's got to be done eventually.
Yeah, and it's even worse. He's 5 for 51 right now.
Oh, okay.
This is this is really bad. You look at Fangraphs, he's a negative WAR player in terms of offense. He's a -6 WAR player in terms of offense. It's
not a surprise.
That's pretty much saying, like, obviously there's a lot more that has gone into these games, so it's not solely Lindor, but that's basically saying that pretty much every single loss the Mets have got this year, outside of one, a lot of that's on him. Like that's how much it's adding up in terms of his bat being that poor. And yeah, I don't know what it's gonna take for things to improve here. Like I'm genuinely worried right now about him. Like not to the point where I'm saying they need to get rid of him and everything, but let's try the standing ovation. I just don't see the harm in it. Best case, it works. Worst case, it doesn't. That's even more concerning if things continue to go in a downward spiral because he should not be this bad. Like, there's just no way around it. Whether you love Lindor, whether you hate Lindor, I think we could all agree that he's not this bad. Like, there's no way he is this bad. And I don't even know how it gets fixed. I really don't. And that's the thing that scares me. Like, he's done different plate approaches. He's even hit the ball hard a lot. Not as much as he'd like, but he's done a solid job with hitting the ball hard. It's like, what could he do? Like, what could he do to change it? I don't know what he could do.
I mean, just looking at a split so far, I know versus at bats from the right side, he's taken 13 at bats so far, and at bats from the left side, he's taken 38 so far. So a bit of a difference, but I mean, the stats are not great, but it does show that from the right side is much better. I mean, from the right side, he's batting 154. From the left side, 079. And then from his slugging from the right, 462. From the left, 079. And his OPS from the right side, 615. And from the left, 296. So while it's not great from the right side either, it's a lot better than the left side.
That's just sad. That's really that's just depressing. Like his OPS from the left side isn't even like a respectable batting average for him. Like
No.
that's how bad this is. Yeah. Like I don't know. It's got to turn around at some point, but the thing that worries me is the fact that we saw it in spring training too. The poor play. Like he was poor in spring training. I know it doesn't usually mean much, but it's carried over this much in the regular season. That's the thing that scares me about this is that what is happening here that it's carrying over. It just doesn't make sense to me. But that's enough Lindor talk because we could keep beating the drum there about him. In terms of other news, Kodai Senga got moved to the 60-day IL. To me, that's not a big deal like most people are making it out to be. I didn't think he was going to return in May either way. So for me, that's really a nothing burger of news, but thought I'd mention it. Other news, JD Martinez, he got sidelined for a bit because of back soreness. I don't even know when he's going to be up with the club at this point. I'm hoping that it will be soon, but the fact that he isn't already is a little worrisome to me because it should not take this long to ramp up hitting. Like pitching, I'd understand. Hitting, I don't know why it's taken him this long.
I don't know. I'm kind of not shocked. There's a little fatigue there or soreness with the back. I mean, just because he is 37, we gotta be honest there. And I don't know how much work he did outside of just simple work because since he was sitting in free agency for that long. But I mean, that just shows you, especially for a guy of his age on the older side like JD Martinez is, you really can't afford to sit for that long in free agency without doing much. Because eventually, like you gotta. I know it's baseball's not as like a physical sport. It's like hockey or other sports, but I mean, you gotta warm up. You gotta get into shape, and I think sitting around for that long and then just trying to quickly get into shape by getting a few AAA at bats. I'm not surprised why there is a bit of back soreness with him.
Yeah, and I'm here if the Boris downfall is going to happen. You already saw Jordan Montgomery switch agents. Hopefully, more guys just leave that freaking tool bag. Like I'm so tired of his garbage, but that's another rant I could go into. But yeah, you're not wrong about that with JD. That it's very concerning. In terms of the fact that, yeah, or I shouldn't say necessarily concerning, but you're right that like him sitting out this long clearly has hurt him, and I don't even know when he's going to be here. I really don't even know, but that's really the small update with JD. It looks like he's not going to be here like we initially thought. Like today, I thought was going to be his Mets debut. My guess is it might be another week. Like I'm guessing next week he's gonna return, but that's just me. So that's a brief update on JD. In terms of other news, since I saw this in the chat, the Mets City Connect jerseys next Friday will be releasing. Looking like they're gonna be purple. We'll talk about that when they release next week, but I don't know. Like we'll see how they are, but my expectations are low after how much they dismantled the black jerseys, but we'll see, I guess.
Let's just see if Fanatics can actually deliver the jerseys to the Mets on time.
Yeah, if that's another good point. If those jerseys could even get delivered on time, because Fanatics has just been that much of a disaster with the way that they've been. God help us with the NHL jerseys. I'm already worried about that, but yeah, like there's really not a whole lot to talk about with this team outside of that. Like we'll talk about the Royals series coming up here, where they start that tonight. And on the mound is Severino, right?
Let me see. Yeah, Sevy
versus
Michael Wacha.
Michael Wacha, the former Met. So, all right, a little bit of a familiar face there on the mound. And then I know they faced Cole Reagans the last game, which I don't like. I think Jose Budo's getting that game, which was announced. And then the middle game,
Manaea's pitching.
Manaea's pitching versus Marsh, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So, interesting. I'm glad they avoid Brady Singer, who's been on an absolute tear. That's at least good news. But Cole Reagans, I don't like that they have to go against him. He's been really good. In general, this Royals team has been very good. So you can't even really sleep on, like Wacha and Marsh. Like those guys even have been very solid. Wacha, of course, after being with the Mets, he goes over to the Tampa Bay Rays, revives his career. Granted, his year wasn't that great, but then with Boston, San Diego, now he's looking like a legitimate starter again. And then you have Marsh, who is having a very solid year. The Royals in general, like I mentioned, have been very good. Bobby Witt is killing it right now. The entire lineup is. So it's not going to be an easy matchup. There's going to be a tall order. Like if the Mets could win this series, which that's all they need to do realistically, and that's what won them 101 games. Just take 2 out of 3 as much as you can. You don't got to sweep every series. Just take 2 out of 3, and eventually things will sort itself out. But yeah, it won't be easy against a team that's won 7 in a row now. And obviously the Mets did beat the Braves, so it is a good sign there. But we'll see. I personally am going to say, though, I'm still going to stay on the pessimistic side. I'm going to say they take 1 out of 2 against the Royals.
I'll go opposite. I'll go 2-1. I'll go 2-1. It's big though, because especially next week, where they're flying out to California, where they have this 3-game series against the Dodgers and a 3-game series against the Giants. You've got 3 games here against the Royals, and you got 3 games here against the Pirates. I think you either gotta go 3-3 here, split the 6-game home stretch at home, or try to go 4-2 before ultimately, going out on that tough West Coast trip.
Yeah, that I agree with, because we're going to do this, by the way. Did forget to mention, because we should talk about the Pirates series a bit too, because we're going to do one after that. So yeah, in general with this 6 games here, we'll give our record predictions. I'm going to say personally that they go, I'm trying to figure out what I want to say. I think they win that Pirate series. I think I'll say 3-3. I think they go 500.
That's what I was going to say, 3-3.
Yeah, I think they win the Pirate series, and I think that they drop the series here to the Royals, because the Royals have been playing good. In terms of the matchups with the Pirate series, do we have any of the pitching matchups announced there?
No, but I would imagine probably Hauser's gets one.
Well, yeah, Hauser will get one. Quintana will get one.
And probably it's going to be Sevy's turn again, I would imagine.
Yeah, and then Severino, and then nothing from the Pirates announced yet, right?
No.
I don't even know who's in that rotation right now, to be honest with you. I'm actually curious to see if I could see who's in that rotation that they might face. They have Bailey Falter, who that's a guy that you should beat. Marco Gonzalez. I mean, they do not have Martin Perez. They have a lot of pitchers that are beatable.
Mitch Keller's been struggling as well, 5.29 ERA. So
I don't know how the Pirates have the record they do. Their pitching has not impressed me at all. But maybe this will be the time the Mets, hang their nuts. Maybe go and sweep the Pirates. Who knows? And humble the Pirates a bit, which that would be great for me because I have a little bet going with my brother of who's going to be worse, the Pirates or the Cardinals. So that'd be nice if the Pirates started the drop games. But yeah, my prediction though is 3-3. Then they go on the West Coast, which sucks. And in terms of just other podcast news with this, we're gonna probably keep these episodes shorter as much as we can, and we're probably going to switch to after every series once basketball season and hockey ends, and there's really not a whole lot to talk about outside of the Mets. So you'll start to get more updates from us then. But for now, you're gonna get shorter episodes. For now, you're gonna get every 2 series, these episodes. So that's really going to be it for us. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching. I appreciate it. Leave a like if you did enjoy, subscribe if you guys are new, especially if you're Met fans. Turn on your notifications so you know when we upload or go live on the channel next. And we will see you guys in the next one.